What we're seeing on the screen is a note with certain peculiarities. The first of them is that, as you can see, it's a note with somewhat erratic and uneven handwriting. If we focus on its sentences, we'll also see that there's a confusing and somewhat chilling narrative in them. However, what makes this note special is not just its content, but the place where it was found. This note was discovered at the scene of a shocking massacre that recently occurred in Argentina. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Villa Crespo is a neighborhood in the center of the autonomous city of Buenos Aires, located in Commune 15. According to the official local tourism website, it is a neighborhood known for its passion for tango, its tree-lined streets, and its low-rise houses, and an obsession with Club Atlanta, a social gathering place for families and friends in the area. This place is now the scene of a case worthy of a horror movie. 2 adults and their 2 teenage children were found with brutal wounds in what was described as a bloodbath. The attack, estimated to have lasted only a few minutes, was carried out with unprecedented cruelty and violence. The worst part was that the attack was carried out by one of the members of that family. What clues do we have so far? What medications were found at the crime scene, and what could this mean? What is the content of the infamous note that keeps appearing in the media today? Why is it said that there was a premonitory Instagram post? To answer these and other questions, we must delve into the dark case of the Villa Crespo crime. It is necessary to clarify that this case is happening in the present time. It is possible that some of the information we provide may be corrected as hours go by, as the investigation progresses. To stay updated on this developing topic, comment update below. Let's dive in. Bernardo Adrian Seltzer was the visible face of his family. The man was born on January 6, 1972 in Adolfo Alsina, Buenos Aires province. And as a young man, he had aspired to become a professional in his field. What was his field? Agribusiness. A firm dedicated to the trading of grains listed on the stock exchange entrusted him with part of its finances. The positive impact of his decisions as an analyst and broker made other companies quickly set their sights on him. With enthusiasm and creativity, Bernardo had become a leading figure in the field. He gave talks, conferences, visited major companies, and journalists called him to ask for his opinion, at times when these issues were making the front pages. Thanks to his contacts and his own strategic abilities, the man soon ventured into other businesses, such as buying and selling properties. He diversified his investments, acquiring assets in places like Uruguay and Paraguay. Bernardo seemed very self-assured. He was friendly and attended parties and events with his family when invited. His wife's name was Laura Fernanda Leguizamon. She was 51 years old and was originally from Lanús. He had 2 children with her, Ian, 15, and Ivo, 12. The 4 of them used to travel and often went out to eat at expensive restaurants. In the eyes of others, they were always happy and constantly making progress. Of course, they would go through problems like any family, but they seemed united and smiling. That was the picture of the perfect clan. The man showed great affection for his inner circle. Today, videos from 2017 easily show him making it very clear. The video is from his speech at the Argentina supermarket of the World Congress. There, Bernardo, microphone in hand, said, "I have 2 beautiful children, a loving, fantastic wife, and I am very grateful to life for having found her."
I'm very grateful to life for having found her. So what do I do? With my wife, with my family, which is one of the most precious things I have.
At the conference, he emphasized the significance of nurturing what one values in life. Anyone could imagine him as a loving and proud man. He said all this while a photo was being projected behind him, where he could be seen with his wife and children. A photo that, 8 years later, would appear again, but this time in the crime section of every newspaper. More precisely, when Bernardo, Laura, Ivan, and Ivo would be found dead, all with stab wounds. On Wednesday, May 21, 2025 at 1:30 p.m., the woman who cleaned for the family, Setzel, opened the door of apartment 6A on Aguirre Street at number 200 and entered the property. She was lost in her thoughts and in the tasks that awaited her that day until something caught her attention. She noticed the strange silence, then saw stains on the floor. As she went further in, she was certain. That was blood, and it was coming from one of the boys who was lying on the floor. The woman didn't need to be a professional to know that the situation wasn't good. The boy looked dead. In desperation, she fled the building, screaming. Amidst the chaos, a neighbor called 911. The police arrived quickly, and after a brief inspection, they confirmed that they were indeed facing something truly serious. The area was cordoned off with do not cross tape, and the scientific police were called in. Curious onlookers and the first media outlets also arrived quickly. It was reported that the case was now in the hands of the National Criminal and Correctional Prosecutor's Office No. 5, headed by Cesar Troncoso. The authorities didn't beat around the bush. There wasn't just one body on the property, but 4. The whole family was dead, and every room in the house seemed to have emerged from a gruesome nightmare. Initial sources indicated that both the adults and the children had multiple stab wounds. The second thing that came to light was that the 2 armored doors of the residence showed no signs of forced entry, and nothing was out of place or missing. This meant that the massacre had been carried out by someone they trusted. The third revelation was more horrifying. The murderer was among the dead bodies. Yes, it had been one of the family members who had killed everyone and then taken their own life. Had Bernardo lost his temper and shown a side of himself that no one knew? The first confusing hours focused on this theory. It was speculated that the man could be responsible for the tragedy, and many were stunned by this possibility. However, the investigators' preliminary conclusions would later be revealed, and everything would take an unexpected turn. After the respective analyses, and when asked who had attacked everyone, the detectives were clear and did not hesitate. The culprit was none other than Laura. The autopsies and analysis of the crime scene provided evidence of the chronology of the attacks. According to the reconstruction, forensic experts estimate Laura used a seized knife and large cleaver. The attack likely occurred on Wednesday at about 6 ante-meridiem. Bernardo's body was found on the double bed. He had no defensive wounds, so it is believed that he was asleep. It's believed he had taken a tranquilizer when he received the 3 chest stab wounds. Ivo, the 12-year-old boy, was in the hallway, and the housekeeper would find his body. Later, when she entered the house, Ivo had numerous wounds on his back, as well as cuts on his hands and arms, which showed that he had tried to defend himself. Ian, the 15-year-old teenager, was found in the dining room. Based on the blood traces, it is believed that he was first attacked in his room. Then, Laura finished him off at the other end of the house, with precise stab wounds to his back. After the triple murder, the killer decided to take her own life. She was found in the bathroom of the apartment with a serious wound in her chest area and self-inflicted injuries on her wrists. She had also driven a fingernail into her neck and had hair in her hands. It's believed she self-inflicted all these wounds while lying beside her already deceased husband. Then she had wandered around the house until she ran out of energy. The shock was total at the national level, but also in the neighborhood where the family lived. No one could believe that Laura, always so kind and supportive, could be capable of doing something like that. But then other aspects began to emerge. The employee who found the bodies was one of the first people to be questioned. The woman surprised everyone when she said that Laura hadn't been the same for a while. When asked about it, she elaborated by explaining that Laura had been acting somewhat erratic for several weeks. She told her to leave. Even when she hadn't finished cleaning, she claimed that she wanted to spend time alone and that she never wanted to hear the sound of the vacuum cleaner again. For the woman, all of this was strange, but she assumed that her employer was going through a stressful time. However, other testimonies shed light on the matter. Laura had a history of psychiatric conflicts and hadn't taken her medication for some time. What has been learned so far is the following. Apparently, Laura had her first psychiatric episode almost 2 years ago. The matter was followed by a severe depression, which she was able to overcome thanks to the support of her loved ones. In fact, around that time, Bernardo had started working from home to be more present in her daily life. A close family friend revealed that, although Laura's condition had improved, she had recently suffered a relapse. This meant an increase in her medication doses. Although it's not entirely clear what her diagnosis was, some sources say that Laura would enter a fantasy world that was hard for her to leave. A psychiatrist friend treated her but recommended therapy with another professional to avoid a personal conflict. Today it is known that the family had contacted a medical center and was waiting for an appointment that never came, to confirm the idea that the woman had abandoned a treatment that could have saved her life and the lives of those close to her. Several medications were found at the residence, many of them unused. Reports mention sertraline, 50 milligrams, and olanzapine, 10 milligrams, an antidepressant and an antipsychotic, respectively. It's important to note that there is currently no official statement on the matter, and many doctors maintain that these medications can also be prescribed in cases of insomnia. So they don't necessarily have to be proof of a psychiatric episode that leads to a psychotic break. In other words, the finding of these drugs is not enough to determine a diagnosis. Beyond all this, in the family's kitchen, the city police personnel found a letter. A letter that, according to what they would say, seemed to be written by a person who was not in their right mind. And that's how our story goes back to the beginning. On Thursday, May 22nd, a photo was leaked to the press showing a portion of the letter that Laura is said to have written minutes before carrying out the massacre or after she had finished it. In it, you can see mixed handwriting with a combination of styles and sizes. You can also notice a strong tremor from the person who was writing. The sentences are short and some seem to lack meaning, others are certainly disturbing. You can read things like, "With what was going to happen, everything bad, very wicked. I ruined their lives. My parents, it was a lot, I love them and I'm sorry." Is there any message to decipher in these words? Is there any clue in these lines that helps to understand all the horror experienced? It's impossible to know Laura's thoughts when she wrote what she did. There is speculation about a mystical delirium, a paranoid attack, and 1,000 other things. For now, it's inappropriate to draw any kind of conclusion. It's believed that the woman's cell phone access pattern is written on the other side of the paper. My phone is L. Can you read it? The investigators suspect that on the right margin of the paper are also the passwords for her children's and her husband's phones. Could there be any password on these phones? Why did she put them there? Was it part of Laura's illogical actions or her final effort to provide clarity? A post that Laura had made years before on Instagram also went viral in the last few hours. In it, you can see her at the beach reading a book titled Family Crimes. In the description she had written, "Evo is behaving horribly." As part of a joke, someone asked in the comments if she had actually killed the boy, and Laura replied that she almost did. Today, these lines seem to have a premonitory character, considering how things would eventually turn out. The institution attended by the murdered siblings issued a statement that said the following, and I quote, "With immense sorrow, we announce the passing of our beloved students Ian and Ivo Seltzer, who attended the Almagro campus. The news deeply moves us as an educational community. We offer all our love and respect to their family, loved ones, classmates, and teachers in this time of great sorrow. We at the school understand the shock caused by this tragedy. Therefore, through our educational coordination teams and specialized professionals, we will be providing support to the groups involved, as well as to the entire community that needs it. Today, the school files of Ian and Ivo Seltzer are being investigated. It is known that they will be examined for clues. This case demonstrates how appearances can sometimes deceive. How behind the facade of the ideal family there are always complexities and adversities that only those who are immersed in the same family dynamic truly know. It's also important to emphasize the importance of mental health and how a timely diagnosis and treatment can make a difference. One way or another, while we're preparing this report, Villa Crespo is in mourning. At the same time, investigators are still searching for the missing pieces of this tragedy, which has become a shocking and bloody puzzle.